Aging, quite the wild ride, huh? One day, it's all smooth sailing, dancing through life without a hitch, and the next, those hips are creaking like a rusty gate. Everyone's heard the same tired lines. Eat those greens, keep moving, blah blah blah. Nice enough, but come on, that's not the full picture. Getting older is more like unwrapping a surprise package. Sometimes it's a laugh, sometimes it's a what in the world moment, and nobody's slipping the real scoop under the door. That's why today's all about spilling the beans. 10 things nobody bothers to mention about this grand adventure of piling on the years. Not the dull doctor's orders. Oh no. These are the quirky, funny, wish I'd known that bits that sneak up out of nowhere. Some will tickle the funny bone. Imagine feet deciding to grow again like they're teenagers. Others might raise an eyebrow or two. And a couple could even offer a handy little trick for the road ahead. Plenty of chats over tea and a peek at what the smart folks say went into this. Turns out, there's a lot more to this aging business than meets the eye. This is the cozy corner where the real talk happens. No stuffy nonsense, just the juicy stuff that should have come with a heads up years ago. Think taste pulling a vanishing act, bodies playing pranks, and secrets that prove the spark's still kicking. So, get comfy, tuck into that favourite chair, maybe snag a biscuit, and let's dive in. This is too good to miss. Number 1's up next, and it's a real hoot. Here we go, number 1. Your sense of taste and smell start to fade, but not how you think. First up, taste and smell start to change, but not in the way most people imagine. It's common knowledge these senses weaken a bit with age. No surprise there. But here's the interesting part. They don't all fade at once. Sweet and salty tastes tend to hang on strong, while bitter and sour slip away first. That explains why some suddenly reach for extra sugar in their tea or can't resist a salty cracker. Those flavours stay bright, while things like spinach or grapefruit might not taste as sharp anymore. There was this neighbour once. After 75, she said broccoli tasted dull and lifeless. Turns out, there's science to it. Bitter taste buds fade faster, so some foods lose their old charm. And smell? That's where it gets really curious. It doesn't just get weaker, it can mix things up entirely. That favourite rose perfume might suddenly seem off, or a fresh cup of coffee could smell strange like onions or even nothing at all. Doctors say the nerves in the nose thin out after 60, and when smells fade, meals can lose their appeal. Ever notice eating isn't as exciting some days? That's why. Now, here's a simple way to keep things tasty. Add a little pizzazz. A sprinkle of cinnamon on toast or a dash of garlic in the stew can bring back the flavour. Even a squeeze of lemon helps when sour's hard to catch. Fresh herbs like rosemary or parsley work wonders too. They perk things up without much fuss. It's not about losing out, it's about finding new ways to enjoy every bite. Taste and smell might shift, but there's still plenty of goodness to savour. Number 2, your feet get bigger, and it's not just swelling. Here's a little secret about those feet, they're not done growing yet. No, the shoes didn't shrink overnight, even if it feels that way sometimes. Here's the surprise. Feet actually get bigger as the years add up. It's not just puffiness from standing too long, though that can happen too. Over time, the ligaments and tendons down there stretch out, and the arches settle lower, like a favourite chair that's moulded to the shape of years. The result? Shoes that were perfect at 50 might be squeezing the life out of those toes by 70, sometimes a half size bigger, sometimes a whole size, or even wider across the top. Doctors explain it's all those decades of walking, standing, dancing. Those 26 bones and 33 joints in each foot just spread out a bit under the weight of life. A lady at the shoe store once shared she went from a size 7 to an 8.5 after 65. Thought she'd picked up the wrong pair until they measured her. Another time, someone mentioned their slippers felt tight after years, and sure enough, their feet had grown wider too. It's not just a quirky tale. Tight shoes can lead to real hassles, like blisters, calluses, or even a stumble if balance starts to waver. Ever had a sore spot pop up out of nowhere? Those growing feet might be the reason. And there's more. Weight changes can play a part too. Put on a few pounds over the years. That extra pressure flattens the feet even more. Or if the knees or hips stiffen up, the way walking happens shifts, and the feet adjust by spreading out. Studies say about 1 in 3 people over 60 notice a size change. Pretty common. But it's not all bad news. It just means those feet have been busy carrying a full life, and they're still ready for more with a little care. So, here's how to keep them happy. Get those feet measured every few years at a shoe shop. It's quick, free, and might save some trouble down the road. Look for shoes with wider toe boxes. None of that pointy nonsense, because cramped toes are no picnic. Thick, soft socks are a treat too. They cushion those hard-working soles after all those miles. If walking feels off or the arches ache, a good insole can prop them up. Drugstores have plenty of options, or ask a foot doctor for a custom fit. Oh, and here's a bonus. Soaking them in warm water with a splash of Epsom salt once a week keeps swelling down and feels like a mini vacation. Feet might be growing, but they're still the foundation of every step. Give them the love they deserve. And speaking of surprises down below, wait until the next one. It's all about how height plays its own little game with the mornings. 3. You might get taller before you shrink. Ever catch a glimpse of yourself in the morning and think, I look a bit taller today? Well, it's not just wishful thinking. Height can play a funny trick before it starts to slip away. Everyone knows the old story about shrinking with age. Those hunched over days do come eventually. But here's the twist. Before that happens, there's a chance to gain a little height, especially first thing in the day. It's all because of the spine, that stack of bones and cushions holding everything up. Here's how it works. Those discs between the spine's bones soak up fluid while sleeping, like little sponges getting plump. Come morning, they puff up, stretching the spine out a smidge, sometimes a ½ inch or more. Someone once measured themselves at 5'6" right out of bed, then 5'5" by supper. Wild, right? As the years go by, this bounce can feel more noticeable because the discs don't snap back as fast. But then, gravity and time team up. Those same discs thin out over decades, and that's when the shrinking kicks in, maybe an inch or two after 60. Doctors say it's a natural cycle, up in the AM, down by PM, and it's tied to how the body rests and moves. Ever notice feeling stiffer after sitting too long? That's the spine compressing too. A nurse once mentioned her patient swore they grew an inch at 70. Turns out it was just a good night's sleep. And here's a fun fact. Astronauts gain up to 2 inches in space with no gravity squashing them. Proof the spine loves a break. On Earth, though, it's a daily tug-of-war between rest and wear. Want to keep that morning boost a bit longer? A few easy stretches can help, like lying flat and reaching arms overhead, or bending side to side gently. 5 minutes after waking keeps those discs limber. Yoga folks call it cat-cow, but no need to get fancy. Good posture helps too. Sitting up straight instead of slumping gives the spine a fighting chance. And if shrinking's already started, a firm mattress can slow it down, keeps the back aligned while those discs recharge. Height might dip eventually, but there's still a little magic in the mornings to enjoy. And while the spine's pulling its stretchy tricks, the next surprise shifts gears. Wait till you hear what happens to hair in all the wrong places. 4. Your hair stops growing in some places, but not in others. Take a look in the mirror someday. Hair's got a mind of its own, doesn't it? Here's the odd truth. As the years roll by, hair slows down where it's wanted most, but pops up like a weed where it's least expected. On the head, eyebrows, and lashes, it's like the growth switch gets stuck, thinner, shorter, or just plain stubborn. But turn to the nose, ears, or chin, and suddenly it's growing season. Thicker, longer, and bolder than ever. It's all about hormones and time doing their dance. Estrogen drops, testosterone gets a louder say, and those facial hairs decide they're the stars now. Someone once laughed about their ear hair looking like a tiny forest by 80. Had to trim it weekly. On the flip side, scalp hair follicles tire out. Less oomph to push out new strands, so they thin or vanish. Ever notice eyebrows getting sparse? Same deal. Doctors say it's genetics too. If the family tree had bushy ears, chances are that's coming down the line. And there's more to it. Skin changes play a part. As it gets drier and less elastic, those rogue hairs stand out even more, like they're waving hello. A barber once told me he's seen clients go from shaving every day to every other week on their face, but the nose trimmer's working overtime. It's not all bad though. Hair's still telling a story of a life lived. Plus, it's a chance to have some fun with it. Ever tried a magnifying mirror to catch those sneaky ones? It's like a treasure hunt. So, here's how to handle it. Keep a small trimmer around for the wild patches. They're easy to use and quick. For the scalp, a bit of biotin in the diet. Think eggs or nuts might nudge things along, though it's no miracle. A good haircut can work wonders too. Short and neat hides the thin spots better than combing over. And if those lashes are fading, a touch of mascara isn't cheating. It's just leveling the field. Hair's shifting gears, but it's still part of the charm. And while hair's playing its little game of hide and seek, the next twist takes it up a notch. Get ready for what happens when the world starts looking right through you. 5. You'll feel invisible. Picture this, standing in a crowd, waiting to be noticed, and it's like the world's put on blinders. Does that ring a bell? Here's a quiet truth. As the years stack up, there's this odd feeling of turning invisible. Waiters skip over to the next table, store clerks chat past like there's nobody there, and somehow, younger folks don't seem to see the person standing right in front of them. It's not every day, but when it hits, it's a real head-scratcher. Studies back this up. After 60 or so, people get overlooked more, especially in busy places. It's not personal. It's just how society's wired to zoom in on youth. Someone once said they waited 15 minutes at a restaurant before waving a napkin like a flag. Finally got a laugh and some service. It's not about fading away though. There's a reason behind it. Eyesight dims a bit with age, voices soften, and slower steps can blend into the background. But here's the good news. There's a way to flip that switch and stand out again. It's all about little choices that shout present and accounted for. A bright scarf, red, yellow, anything bold, catches the eye like a beacon. A snazzy hat or a big pair of glasses works too. Suddenly, people can't miss what's coming their way. Posture's a helper. Standing tall, shoulders back, makes a difference more than most realise. Ever tried a cane with some flair? A neighbour picked one with a carved handle. Now it's a conversation starter everywhere. Even a clear, steady hello can turn heads when the voice joins the party. There's science to it too. Bright colours and confidence signal energy, and people notice energy. A doctor once mentioned it's not just vanity. Staying visible keeps spirits up and stress down, like a little boost to the day. So, dig out that colourful coat from the closet, practice a big smile in the mirror, or carry a quirky keychain. Small things, big impact. Being seen isn't about age. It's about owning the space, and that's something worth claiming every time out the door. And while the world's learning to spot that sparkle again, the next bit tunes into something else. How the voice decides to change its tune over time. 6. Your voice gets weaker. Ever find that voice starting to sound like it's on a low battery? Here's something sneaky. As the years add up, that strong, clear tone can soften into something quieter, maybe a bit raspy. It's not just imagination. Those vocal cords, the tiny strings in the throat that make all the talking happen, thin out over time. They lose some of their stretch and strength, turning a big hello into more of a whisper without even noticing. Doctors say it's a mix of age and use. Decades of chatting, laughing, maybe shouting at a ball game wear them down. A librarian once mentioned her voice went from ringing across the room to barely reaching the front desk by 70. Took her by surprise. It's not just volume either. Sometimes it wobbles or cracks, like it's warming up but never quite gets there. Dryness plays a part too. Less moisture in the throat as years go by can make it feel scratchy. Ever had that frog in the throat moment more often? That's the clue. But here's the bright side. It's not a done deal. Those vocal cords are like any muscle. Give them a workout and they perk right up. Singing's a great start. Belt out a favourite tune in the shower or car, no audience required. Humming works too. Try it while cooking or gardening, just a few minutes a day. Reading aloud's another winner. Grab a book or even the morning paper and let it rip. A retired teacher swore by reciting poetry every night. Said it kept her voice steady well into her 80s. There's proof it pays off. Studies show regular voice exercises can boost strength by 20% or more, even later in life. Sip water all day to keep things moist. Warm tea with honey's a treat that helps too. And if talking tires it out, rest it like a sprained ankle. Quiet time lets it bounce back. Want a fun twist? Try a voice app. Some have silly drills that turn it into a game. That voice might soften, but with a little effort, it's still ready to sing, or at least call across the yard. And while that voice finds its rhythm again, the next surprise proves there's plenty of spark left upstairs. Get set for what the brain can still pull off. 7. Your brain still learns like a 20-year-old, if you let it. Think the brain's too set in its ways to pick up something new? Think again. Turns out, it's still got the chops of a 20-year-old ready to learn at any age. That old saying about teaching an old dog new tricks? Pure nonsense. Scientists have found the brain never stops growing connections. It's wired to adapt and soak up fresh skills whether it's 30 or 90. All it needs is a little nudge to get rolling. They call it plasticity, fancy word for the brain's ability to rewire itself. Someone once decided at 72 to learn Spanish for a trip. 6 months later, they were ordering tapas like a pro. It's not about being a genius, it's about giving it a challenge. The catch? If it's left on autopilot, same routine, same TV shows, it gets lazy. But toss in something new, and those neurons fire up like a light show. Studies say older adults who try new things cut their dementia risk by 1/3. Pretty impressive for just shaking things up. And it doesn't have to be big. Small switches count. Swap the daily crossword for a Sudoku puzzle, or try cooking a dish from scratch, maybe that curry recipe that's been sitting in the drawer. A neighbour took up knitting at 68. Now she's gifting scarves like it's her job. Even walking a different route to the store wakes the brain up. New sights, new thoughts. The trick is keeping it curious. It thrives on that. Ever forget a name lately? Challenging it with new stuff sharpens memory too. Double win. Want to start? Pick one thing this week, maybe a harmonica lesson online or a library book on birdwatching. 5 minutes a day builds the habit. There's no rush. Apps can help too. Some teach languages or card games with easy steps. And here's a perk. Learning boosts mood. Science says it pumps out feel-good chemicals like a little brain party. That mind's still young at heart, ready to tackle anything with a bit of encouragement. And while the brain's busy proving its spark, the next twist shifts to something the body's quietly craving. Stay tuned for what it's thirsty for. Ever feel a bit worn out and wonder why the pep's gone missing? Here's a quiet little shift. As the years stack up, the body starts begging for more water, way more than it used to. It's not that thirst goes away, it's that the signal for it gets fuzzy. After 50 or 60, that I'm thirsty alarm doesn't ring as loud, so it's easy to skip a glass without realising the tank's running low. Doctors say it's a natural change. Kidneys don't hold on to water as well, and the brain's thirst switch slows down. Someone once mentioned feeling dizzy at the grocery store. Turns out, they hadn't sipped anything since breakfast. Dry skin, headaches, even that foggy feeling can sneak in when water's scarce. Ever notice a scratchy throat or lips that chap too fast? All signs the body's waving a flag for a drink. Studies show dehydration's behind a lot of tiredness in older adults. Sneaky, right? And it's not just about feeling off. Water keeps joints moving smooth, eyes clear and energy up. Without it, everything creaks like an old gate. A nurse once said she sees folks perk up in an hour just from a good glassful. Better than coffee some days. Hot weather or a salty meal makes it worse too. The need jumps, but the signal doesn't. Ever wonder why a nap doesn't fix that slump? Could be the body's parched and waiting. So here's the simple plan. Make water a habit, not a chore. Keep a bottle handy, fill it at breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime. Aim for 8 cups or so. Add a slice of orange or a sprig of mint if plain's too dull. It's like a treat without the fuss. Warm water works too, easier on the stomach, especially in the morning. A little trick, sip before meals. It helps digestion too. And if forgetting's the issue, set a phone reminder. Drink up or keep a pretty picture on the counter. The body's thirsty for it and it will thank you with every step. And while that water's keeping everything flowing, the next bit's all about what keeps the spirit humming. Get ready for why company matters more than ever. 9. You'll need more friends than you think. Ever notice how a quiet house feels a little too quiet some days? Here's a big one. As the years roll on, having people around matters more than ever, and not just for fun. Sure, a few close pals might seem enough, but life has a way of shifting things. Retirement clears the calendar, moves change the neighbourhood, and time trims the circle smaller than planned. Suddenly, it's clear. A good bunch of connections isn't a luxury, it's a must. Science puts it plain. Loneliness isn't just a downer, it's tough on the whole system. Too much alone time hikes stress, muddles memory, even knocks years off the clock. Harvard says it's as rough as smoking a pack a day. Someone once shared they felt sharper after joining a card game group, said the chatter cleared the cobwebs. It's not about crowds. Even 1 or 2 steady companions can lift the mood and keep the mind humming. Ever feel that lift after a good laugh with someone? That's the magic at work. And it's not just talk, bodies feel it too. Social time cuts blood pressure, eases aches, even helps sleep better. Turns out, a chat over tea is medicine without the pill bottle. A widow down the street started a walking club after 70, said it beat sitting home staring at the walls. Life's busier now, but emptier spots creep in. Kids move out, old haunts close, so building new ties keeps the spark alive. It's not about replacing the past, it's about adding to the present. So how to make it happen? Start small. Say hi to the same cashier every week or join a library talk. A gardening group's perfect if dirt's your thing. Swap tips and tomatoes. Even a phone call to an old buddy counts. Set a day for it, like Thursday catch-ups. One trick, host a coffee hour, bring the cookies, let them bring the stories. Studies say just 20 minutes of connection a day boosts health, easy as pie. Company's not just nice, it's the glue that keeps everything together. And while those connections light up the days, the next one's a gentle reminder of what stays steady through it all. Hold on for the heart of it. 10. You're still the same person inside. Look back at an old picture, see that grin, that glint in the eye. Here's the warmest truth of all. No matter how many candles pile up on the cake, deep down, that same person's still there. The mirror might show wrinkles or a few more grey hairs, but inside, the curiosity, the humour, the heart that doesn't pack up and leave. It's the core that's been along for the whole ride, unchanged by time. It's easy to think age rewrites everything, but it doesn't touch what's real. Someone once said, at 85 they still feel 25 when a good song comes on. Feet tapping, same old rhythm. Studies back it up. Sense of self stays steady, even as the body shifts gears. Ever catch yourself giggling at a silly joke or dreaming up a trip? That's the proof. It's the same spirit that climbed trees or danced late into the night, just wrapped in a little more experience now. And it's not just fluff. Holding on to that inner spark does wonders. Doctors say it cuts stress, keeps the mind sharp, even eases those achy days. Feeling like yourself is a strength all its own. A man at the park shared he still builds model planes like he did at 10. Said it's his way of keeping the kid alive. Life piles on stories, losses, wins, quiet moments, but none of it dims what's inside. It's not about denying the years, it's about knowing they don't own the show. So lean into it, do what lights that fire. Sing that song nobody else gets. Write a letter. Plant a flower just because. Keep a journal. Jot down what still makes the heart skip. It's a treasure map to that core. A little trick. Talk to that younger self sometimes. What would you try today? And watch the ideas flow. Science says it boosts resilience. Proof that staying true inside keeps the outside humming too. Age is just a number. The real you's timeless and ready for more. And with that gem lighting the way, it's time to wrap this journey up. Stick around for a quick look back and a nudge to share your own take. Well, there it is. 10 surprises that snuck up along this wild road of getting older. From taste buds picking favourites to feet stretching out, height doing its morning dance, and hair popping up in all the wrong spots. What a lineup, huh? Then there's feeling invisible until that bright scarf says otherwise. A voice that needs a tune-up, a brain itching to learn, water turning into a secret weapon, friends keeping the days bright, and that steady spark inside that never fades. Who knew aging packed so many twists? It's been quite the trip, hasn't it? Some of these might have made you laugh, maybe picturing those ear hairs waving hello. Others might have hit close, like that quiet thirst sneaking by unnoticed. And a few, well, they're a little nudge to see this stage in a new light. It's not about fighting the years, it's about knowing what's coming and making it work. Every one of these quirks is proof of a life lived, full of steps, stories, and a bit of mischief. And the best part? There's still room to tweak the recipe, add some spice, stretch those vocal cords, keep that inner kid kicking. So here's the invitation. Which one stuck with you? Was it the growing feet that made you eye those old sneakers? Or the brain's big comeback that's got you curious? Drop a note below. Share what surprised you most, or even a trick you've picked up along the way. It's a chance to swap stories with everyone watching, because nobody's alone in this adventure. If this list sparked a chuckle or a thought, give it a thumbs up. Let's more folks in on the fun. And pass it along, maybe to someone who'd grin at the hair bit or nod at the water tip. Want more of this? Hit that subscribe button. There's plenty ahead about living these years with a smile and a few handy ideas. Turn on the bell too. No missing out that way. This isn't the end of the road. It's just a bend with more to explore. Here's to keeping the good stuff going. See you next time with another batch of surprises worth knowing.